So we are here and we are ready to go. We're going to have a special guest at 3:30 this afternoon. Now, if you listen to the program on a regular basis, you know that John in Hartford calls, and he has been talking about this chance to bring thousands of jobs to Hartford with a film company moving to the city, but only if J. Stan McCauley were elected mayor. And my case has always been, what does a particular mayor have to do with you locating your business to a municipality? The municipality should be the sales point, not the mayor. And so we have arranged to have Dr. Yasha Barjona on the program. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He will be on the show. He will talk about the possibility of bringing business to Hartford. He will join us at 3:30, and also J. Stan McCauley will join us in studio. Dr. Barjona will be in, I believe, Arizona, but J. Stan McCauley will be in studio, and they'll be our guests from 3:30 until 4 this afternoon. And we'll talk about this opportunity to bring business to Hartford. Now, as you know, we have talked about this in the past, and we've talked about this with J. Stan McCauley, who is running for mayor of Hartford, about the possibility of bringing jobs to Hartford. And first of all, we welcome J. Stan to the program. Stan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dan. It's great to be here again.
And I would like you, because our guest is going to be Dr. Yasha Barjona. In fact, let's introduce Dr. Barjona to our audience. Doctor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Terrific. How are you, sir?
Oh, excellent, excellent.
And we have Stan with us as well.
Good afternoon,
great.
sir. How are you?
Hello, Stan. How are you?
Quite well.
And Stan, perhaps you can set the scene for us as to what industry we're talking about here.
Well, we're talking about communications and media, print media, television, radio, satellite. We're talking about like pressing CDs, DVDs, gaming. There's an educational component. Of course, Dr. Barjona would be able to explain it much better than I myself, but I've known him for many, many years, and when I was in conversation with him about running for office, he said that, you know what, I'll tell you what, if you become mayor, I'd love to come back to Connecticut and bring my operation there, but there's got to be a municipal government that I know is no nonsense. And I says, are you serious? He says, I'm serious. And he said, I'll explain the plan to you. I'm going to trust that you're not going to say a word about it to anybody, and you have to trust that I'll do my part. And that's where we've been since January.
Dr. Barjona, are you from Connecticut originally?
Yes, I am. Born and raised, Hartford, Connecticut.
Uh-huh. And what is your business?
It's a multimedia conglomerate, actually, that we have begun to launch that covers every aspect of media, from music, film, motion pictures, television, games, video games, print media, and we're even involved in a couple of projects with satellite television on a global level with our partners in the UK. TIC Global, which is another company that we're affiliated with as well.
What is the name of your company?
Y3K Global Media.
And you're currently based where?
Currently, we're operating out of Phoenix, Arizona. And in our plan, we are going to be expanding into, of course, the major hubs of entertainment, as we know, are usually Los Angeles and New York. Though we will have a small presence in New York, based on the conversations with J. Stan regarding his running for mayor, we thought that instead of setting everything up in New York that we had planned to do, we would put the bulk of our business back in Connecticut, because he sees the same vision that we see, for the people and for the communities there. So we just made that decision to set our East Coast home there instead of New York.
How many jobs would this mean for Greater Hartford?
In the Greater Hartford area, with everything up and running, we are expecting a minimum of 2,500 jobs, mainly because of the manufacturing aspect. Now, let me explain that to you. As you know, most companies send their manufacturing abroad. From your sneaker companies,
right.
So many manufacturing jobs have left this country, and we have decided that since we own and control our own licenses for our product, even in our joint ventures with, we have a joint venture now with Universal, but in our business model, we felt that it was smart to also be involved with our foundational side, which is the VisionWorks Endowment Group, where we are very interested in social entrepreneurialism. Instead of exploiting the product to just be a profit-making or profit-generating product for our company, we wanted to use these opportunities to create jobs behind the scenes. So when we have to make our DVDs or our CDs, instead of sending them to Asia, we create these jobs within the community that we do business. This way it creates, a just serious job base for people who are looking to make changes in their life.
Now, are these jobs that provide a livable wage?
Yes. What we have done, and I can't disclose, of course, numbers at this time, but we have created a business model, and with our relationships with our bankers, we have banking relationships in Asia and in the UK, and they have also seen the plan. They've also seen the details of how we are planning to work this thing, and we want to create an opportunity for people to make the average person in our company to make at least what it takes for them to pay their monthly bills within a 1-week period. Now, I know that sounds a little out there, but I guess they thought the Wright brothers were a little out there. I'm sure they thought Thomas Edison was a little out there, but today we're experiencing some amazing things as a result of their wild thinking. And so we have this concept, and we do have a way to make it work, and I can't get into how. That's our commercial advantage, but to have the average person that works for us to make enough money in 1 week to take care of their family for the month.
Now, as you know, our economic situation in Connecticut and the country and even around the world is in flux. It's a roller coaster ride. You're confident that your business plan would be able to withstand this roller coaster ride, so to speak?
Absolutely, and mainly because of the information we have. Most people in the world aren't privy to all that goes on regarding the financial world. I'll give you a good example. Back in 2008, when the market crashed, you guys remember that, I'm sure.
Yes.
That day, infamous day, when it dropped down to, I believe it was 777 points minus. It was a total crash. I find it interesting that about 2 months later, that $1 trillion can show up to bail people out. Now, this is the thing people don't understand. If there was such an economic crash, how did $800 billion show up so quickly to start bailing people out? Because there is a back office in the financial world that operates on levels that the average person has no idea. What we see and what we call the economy is a retail view. But to every retail view, no matter what business you're in, there's a back office called the wholesale view. And we have a lot of good information regarding that backdrop, that back office that really makes the world turn. Regardless of what happens to this economy, money will be available. Money does happen. There really is no, this is dispelling that whole myth about, we're running out of money. We may be running out of money in certain areas of the front office, but there is not a shortage on money.
And you're saying
regardless of what anybody says.
And
there's other mechanisms that are out there that are going on that a lot of people don't know about.
And you're saying your company, Y3K Global Media, would remain in Phoenix but expand to the East Coast?
Yeah, we are doing a lot of film work out there because of the weather. And we decided not to go into Los Angeles because of all the earthquakes and things, and Phoenix seems pretty stable, even though we felt a little tremor not long ago. But the weather is impeccable, and with the backlot capability to build locations, it would be a lot more feasible, and plus we attract, a lot of people from Los Angeles that want to make movies as well. But on the East Coast, there is a lot of movies being made, a lot of TV shows being shot, and like I said, we were going to set a duplicate close to a replica of what we were doing in Phoenix back in New York. But based on why we're on this conversation regarding the city and of Hartford and the upcoming mayoral election, we have strong consideration to bring that business back to Hartford, because even just making one film generates so many jobs for the community. So we're talking about using the East Coast location to not just set up our music and our other media operations for our East Coast location, but to get involved in a lot of our production, whether it be television shows, films, and manufacturing. And manufacturing, I would say 100% of our manufacturing we're going to do back on the East.
But is your location to Hartford dependent on Stan winning the mayor's race?
Absolutely. Now, let me say why. I'm glad you brought that up. It's about, I would say, 15 years ago.
Okay, and Doc, I'm just going to hold you up a second because we've got a traffic report, but we will get right back to this. So hold on a second.
Okay.
Dr. Yasha Barjona, but we do want to get to traffic, so let's find out what's happening on the roadways. Back to our guest, Dr. Yasha Barjona of Y3K Global Media. Now, Doctor, you're explaining why locating to Hartford is dependent on Stan winning the mayoral election. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. About 15 years ago, we had tried an initiative. We were this was prior to the building of the whole Adrian's Landing, and this is when Adrian's Landing was a big discussion back then. They were talking about the Patriots coming to Hartford. Would they come to Hartford? Would they build a stadium? I don't know if you remember that.
I sure do.
There was a lot going on.
I was here. I remember it.
Okay, well, back then, Fleet Bank, which is now known as Bank of America, but Fleet Bank, our company had developed a very good relationship with them. We had spent about a year bringing our information, our vision for the city, and we had a $60 million project that we wanted to do, that we wanted to start with a media program that would have generated, at the time, about 400 to 500 jobs. And so we met with people in the administration at that time. We were called into meeting after meeting after meeting. But then there was so much politicking going on. There was no real sincerity, in my opinion, when it came to what the people of Hartford needed. There was no one really had a sincere desire to see things change where they really meant something.
Were you dealing with the state or the city of Hartford?
The city.
Okay.
This is the city of Hartford. And when you looked around, more businesses were leaving the city, more stores were closing up, Everybody was leaving and going out to Manchester, West Hartford, to Farmington, and it was becoming more of a ghost town. And there are so many people trying to set things up, and we were one of those people that were trying to make some changes and create more activity and more excitement in the city. But it was just too much. The politics was just too thick.
Well, what makes you think the politics is still there today, some 15 years later? Have you attempted to contact the current government?
Well, no, I didn't necessarily contact the current government, but I've been reading, and I have people there that actually that are on my chief executive staff that still work and that still live in the Connecticut area. And based on some of the things that they've shared with me, based on some of the things I've read, based on following this whole situation, this whole thing regarding or surrounding the election, and hearing the messages, hearing the different candidates, hearing about what's happening in the education system there, hearing about what's happening in the job market there, I just felt that I can't risk bringing not just my company, but 5 other companies that are going to come in the area that I'm working with.
Okay, Doctor.
There's 2 companies over in London.
Doctor, I'm going to ask you, just hold, Doctor, just hold 1 second. We'll be back after our report. Welcome back, Dan Lovallo, the Dan Lovallo Show, and Don Connor's just informing us that the jury so far has found Joshua Komisarjevsky guilty on 3 counts of murder so far. So the jury still out there, verdicts still being read, but so far Komisarjevsky has been found guilty on 3 counts of murder, and they're still reading the verdicts. And what's fascinating to me is that the jury was out for, 12 hours, not even, as they reached that verdict. Okay, back with our in-studio guest, J. Stan McCauley, running for mayor of Hartford, and also joining us on the program is Dr. Yasha Barjona of Y3K Global Media, and why he would relocate a portion of his business or expand a portion of his business to Hartford if Stan McCauley were elected mayor. And Dr. Barjona, what do you see in Stan that would make a difference and lead you to locate in Hartford?
Well, I think the main thing, getting to the point, was his vision and his heart for the people. And no, we're in a very serious. We know that the mayoral elections are very strong in the political arena, in the political game. But in spite of all of the politics, his vision and his heartbeat for that city is sincere. And I've, read things, and even before I spoke to Stan, I was following what was going on with him leading up to my actually speaking to him, and that's the key thing, is his heart and his vision for the city. It makes sense to us, not just to me, but my board and all the people in our company, and it was strong enough for everyone in our meetings to say, if we do East Coast, if this happens in Hartford, we want to set up shop there and really be a part of changing the city around and giving the people opportunities that they deserve to have.
If he's not elected, where on the East Coast will you locate?
New York.
New York. What do you see in New York that it has over Hartford, regardless of who's the mayor of Hartford?
Well, the situation in New York is the media capital of the world, and we have 30 years experience there. I'm not new to New York. I spent over 30 years of my career working in New York. I was an executive producer at RCA Records. I've worked at Capitol Records. I've worked at Warner Brothers. I've worked at every major record company that exists. I've forged out major relationships there in that city and in that community. And so it's, the next best thing. Hartford would be ideal because that's where I was born and raised. That's where my family comes from. And the people there, we would just love to see some things happen, but we know that it's very difficult to make things happen when you don't have a government there that doesn't see things the same way. There are a lot of, bureaucracy, a lot of things that pop up that we're not going to be interested in dealing with. We just want to get to the people. We just want to be a blessing to the city, and that's not always easy to do. It's kind of like a pipe dream where you don't have a collaborative effort from the city government.
But how do you know, particularly with the new mayor now, who took over a year ago, how do you know that hasn't changed unless you pick up the phone and talk to him?
Well, I mean, I can talk to him, and the thing is, it's like this business that we're in and the businesses that we're associated with, they're all based on very long-standing relationships. And speaking to him is one thing, but trusting takes me time to know people. I have to know that people are sincere about what they do. I don't know the current administration there. Even if I began dialogue with them, by rule, it would take at least a couple of years to get to know the person, to know what they're doing, what their vision is, and see the result of that.
But you know people in New York.
Yes.
And you trust the people in New York.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Well, a lot of the people in New York have been very responsible for the success that we've had in our business over the last 30 years.
How many people currently are employed by your business?
Currently, we have 15 in our management level. And we have been, and at this time, we've been vending out or outsourcing all of our marketing and manufacturing until we begin to get our infrastructure built, our buildings put up. We're in the process of finishing our designs and things for our locations and our facilities now.
Okay.
And then as we progress over the next 3 to 6 months, and then we phase in.
Doctor, we have about 30 seconds left. Stan, anything you would like to add? Stan McCauley.
Well, the horror story of how he was treated, I've heard from so many people within the area. And at the end of the day, Hartford's a small town. I mean, it has the illusion of grandeur because it's got tall buildings, but it's a small town and it has small town politics. And unfortunately, that is what has held Hartford back over the years. And I think this is a great opportunity.
Okay, Dr. Barjona, we are out of time, but we thank you very much for spending the last half hour with us today.
Well, I thank you for having me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You take care. And Stan, we thank you for spending time with us as well.
Anytime. I'm always available whenever you call.